So tell me, I want to hear this story now. Don't give me the runaround.
You'll have to shut me up. During that time, I decided that I would open a photo gallery. And I was living in an old Victorian, one of the first hippies in this middle-class neighborhood. And the landlady said, yeah, fine, you can, there's this old vacant storefront downtown and that I can rent it cheap. And start a photo gallery. I started publishing a photo magazine. I had a lot of friends who were into photography from another venture I'd been in. So magically it happened. My hours of operation, and I can only describe the operation itself as being half-assed, because in those days I would frequently find myself not getting out of bed until around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But then was the days. I would stay open quite late at night, of course, sometimes until the wee hours of the night. A lot of interesting people from that area would come wandering in. One day, I was sitting in the back of my shop. I had a partition that was a kind of a screen that I could see through into the shop or see when people walked in. And I had a friend in that neighborhood who was a sort of a customer to begin with, and we got to know each other. And on this particular day, we were sitting back there talking. He was a school teacher who had played hooky that day. I looked up and saw these two big, pretty obviously to me, plainclothesmen come in, and they were looking at my photo display. And I walked out and said, can I help you? And without fanfare or greeting, they said, take down these two photographs. I said,
wow,
no. What are you talking about? They said, take my advice, take them down or we'll be back. I said, well, I'm not taking them down. Now, all this had been observed by the school teacher. In that shop, it was essentially, as I say, a photo gallery, but I also began to have psychedelic posters. Buttons were a big craze, and also I had little paraphernalia for smoking illegal substances.
Oh, no.
But really, my focus was on the gallery, and I would never ever have thought of the place as being a psychedelic shop, or what they called a head shop. After they left, there was a period of time, and one of the things that I think triggered or added to my problem that I didn't know I had was that this photographer and I got to talking one day and decided that it would be fun to have photographs, a documentary of Hell's Angels on one of their runs. By this time I decided to do a photography magazine. And so I thought, I'll get the Hell's Angels to let my photographer Ronnie get in the back of a pickup truck and go on a run with the Hell's Angels. So, this would be fun, right? This is kind of another story, but in fact, Sonny Barger, head of the Hell's Angels, was out of prison at that time.
Ooh.
And I think I just found a phone number for the Hell's Angels and called them up. And one day, this is again after the cops had come in, he and a couple of his Hell's Angels buddies parked in front of the shop and came in to talk to me.
So
I faked it. And so they agreed to this. And that was, and I think there was one other visit in the next couple of days. As I understood it later, Sonny was under suspicion. This second event, there were more of them that came into my shop.
Well, you know, about this same time, I was working down south of you, and Hunter Thompson was working at the same place where I was, and he was doing his Hell's Angels article for Esquire at the time. And so I used to hear a little bit about Sonny Barger from work down there. And my understanding was that he was one hell of a bad guy.
Sonny Barger was all business, and he was a guy I could do business with. The other guys, I didn't quite want to look them in the eye. They were sullen little fellows. They weren't big. He was a pretty big guy. God, what they didn't have in stature, they made up for in vibrations. Flash forward to a few days later, and once again, pure coincidence, sitting in the back of the shop was another very straight friend of mine. Let's call him Morris. Has 2 or 3 college degrees from impressive institutions, vice president of a big company in the city. And we're sitting back there talking. So by sheer coincidence, I had another witness for what was about to happen. When barged into the shop, first of all, I could see stopping, and into the shop comes these uniformed police, the 2 other guys, who I later knew to be Vice Squad, and the head of the Vice Squad, a guy named Wolf.